I am doing a live. It's impromptu. I didn't schedule it this time because life has just been crazy. I started that new job and Saturdays were going to be my day to do it, but that just didn't happen. I don't know if you can hear my dog sighing, but she's upset that I'm talking now. But let's do the Celtic Cross and see what's going on. And then, yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what times I go live. I still have like another week of training with this job. And then it's gonna be full time. I won't be working there full time in general though, because I do other work and I do other freelance work. So, it's just like it's supposed to be something on the side for me to have like a consistent paycheck while I am still doing my freelancing work. I'm still doing readings for people, things like that, just to kind of help like supplement income. But let's do a Celtic Cross reading and see what we get. We're just gonna do it on like the overall general vibe. Sorry if you can hear all the motorcycles and stuff. I don't know why people have to like rev it up and like brag that they have a motorcycle. I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, so yeah. Usually Saturdays were gonna be my day, but next Saturday I'm working like a full day, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it again. We'll see if I'm able to fit it in on Sunday, but Sundays we usually spend it with the family. We just didn't today because I just wasn't feeling well and I was tired, and my husband had some appointments, so he went to go do that for a little while. I said I would write, but here I am because I was like, I should do at least one live video this week, at least one, so that I can just keep up with consistency. And then we'll see about going live on TikTok as well. That one's more of like a hangout. It's not necessarily like how this one is a little bit more organized because I at least do an actual reading. So yeah. But anyways, let's get into it. I already shuffled, so well, I did one of the shuffles, but now let's get some cards out. So what is on our mind presently when it comes to just like the general vibe of what's happening? I know some stuff has been pissing me off, but I wonder if it'll even pop up on this. Oh, we had two cards pop out. Okay. So let's make for our central issue here, or in our present, we have 10 of Pentacles. So I think that for a lot of us, we're kind of like focusing a little bit more on our family and how we can contribute to... Hello. So 10 of Pentacles, yeah. So the present, we're kind of focusing on family, wealth, contribution. I think also like just learning in general with that Mercury there, and maybe like a little bit more like grounded. Oh my gosh. And then we have for the challenge, we have 2 of Wands. So that tells me that you're just like continuously looking elsewhere. And maybe that's how we're missing out on that that 10 of Pentacles life. That's going to be the challenge here. So let's look in the past and see maybe what led us to this, like this struggle to discover something new, this struggle with the future. You know, we have Mars, which is like conflict and what's it called? I'm like blanking right now. Our challenge is the 2 of Wands. Whenever we're like struggling to look around, we're struggling to plan for the future, and we're struggling with conflict. Taking action, that's the words I was thinking about, taking action. So whenever we look at the past, we think about the King of Cups. This popped up for me a few times this week. So that King of Cups reversed kind of makes me think about like controlling our emotions. I think a lot of us were struggling with it. We have coldness, volatile, immature, overreaction, manipulative. So I think in the past, a lot of people were focusing a little bit more on that aspect and kind of like struggling to process their emotions and struggling to analyze what's going on and things like that. And that's kind of like adding to that like lack of foresight whenever it comes to our challenge here. Like we want that 10 of Pentacles life, right? We want like the abundance, like financially, like material wise, but we're struggling with it because of that challenge of like always looking elsewhere. And maybe because it's like we're looking for this like perfect emotional thing that should be happening. And then in the future, I have Seven of Cups reversed. So I think a lot of us are still going to struggle with like the lack of purpose, confusion, being overwhelmed by choice, like just having like way too many options. And maybe that's why we're always looking elsewhere. We're always looking around. We're not like centering our focus. Let's look at consciousness here. So like what is on our consciousness? And like what can we see in front of us that's like maybe forcing this struggle here? I have 10 of Cups. I think a lot of us are focusing on our family a little bit more. That's really cool that we got 10 of Pentacles and 10 of Cups. I think that maybe overall people, like I know that things are like, there's so many difficulties in the world, right? There's so much hardship. But a lot of us right now are seeing like positivities happen, maybe in like small doses. And it's really like pushing us to continue to go forward, even if like we might have that like lack of knowing what to do next. You know, like maybe there's just too many options and it's overwhelming. Like, what should we do to take action? How should we implement this next thing, you know? And so in our consciousness, I think we're focusing a lot more on family. And then I've gotten Mars a couple of times here. So like conflict management, like taking action, like how can we take action? And whenever we look into our subconscious, I think a lot of us aren't realizing like how much progress we are actually making. You know, confidence, victory, public acknowledgement. So I think in the subconscious, a lot of people aren't realizing like how much people are actually mobilizing and how much people are like helping each other out, you know what I mean? And that there is success and there's progress. That's what I'm getting as well with this like Jupiter card. Progress, like shifting forward, expansion in a huge way. Let's get some advice. Although overall this reading seems pretty positive. I think it means that like things are moving in the right direction, even if we might feel a little bit like overwhelmed or maybe our emotions are not like 100% where they need to be. You know, maybe a lot of us are feeling a little bit like over emotional or whatever. So we have advice. Queen of Swords reversed. So I think for some people, we maybe need to cut off like giving people so much power whenever it comes to our emotions, you know, and learning how to like not stonewall, but like, I think it's called like, what is it called whenever you, not stonewalling, because stonewalling is like just refusing to like have a productive conversation with somebody, like using it as like an abuse tactic. I'm talking more about like cold rocking, I think is what it's called. But basically it's whenever like if somebody is trying to like trigger you, you just like reel it back emotionally and you just like are almost like stoic about it. Although I think like stoicism can sometimes be an issue we have in society because we need to care about people. We need to care about, you know, liberation for all. That's a huge thing for me. But I think the Queen of Swords is more of about like, let's not let people's harsh words get to us or silence us. And I'm getting that with that King of Cups reversed, like that manipulation and kind of like in the past, like dealing with like not knowing how to react to people who are being abusive or crappy or whatever, you know? And so I think if we're able to kind of like combat these people who their resentment is why they're behaving in certain ways, you know? And then I think also to not isolate ourselves either. Like try to find people who also believe in similar things that you do and like find that like liberation with others, you know? Let's get another card here. I want to do, what are the external influences of this? I have Knight of Swords reversed. It says lack of direction, restlessness, unpredictability, and impulsivity. There's no planets attached to it. But that external influence, with these like two sword cards I have over here that are like a little higher in the suit, I feel like a lot of it has to do with communication, like maybe written communication, like maybe being online, like things like that. And I'm getting the feeling that the external influence a lot of us are feeling is that like we struggle to find other like-minded people, or maybe we like look online and we're just like, oh my gosh, it's just full of like so many hateful people. And so if we like shift away from that, then we can have more of a community mindset, you know? And a lot of us are not seeing, like I said, in the subconscious, a lot of us are not seeing how much like progress is happening. Let's look at our hopes and fears whenever it was revolved around this, because we're thinking 10 of Pentacles. So we're thinking like financial wealth and also like just like financial stability and where we need to be financially. I have 6 of Swords reversed. A lot of us, it says resistance to change, unfinished business, and resisting. And then we have like Mercury attached with this card here. So I think for a lot of people, our fear is that like as much as we want things to change, they never will. And I feel that a lot too, like with people who are being hateful or like whatever, it becomes like such a challenge to combat that, you know? I don't see the world that way. I'm not like going around like thinking negative things about people. So whenever people are just like negative or cruel, a lot of times I struggle with like, how do you respond to that? And so whenever we think about this, like 6 of Swords and being resistant to change, it kind of like becomes our fear. Like, how do we do differently? You know what I mean? How do we make an impact? Let's see what outcome we have here. I got 2 cards for the outcome. I have Knight of Cups. So idealistic, romantic, emotional, imaginative, and sensitive. Okay. And then I also got 6 of Cups reversed. So boredom, child abuse, stagnation, and leaving home. It also has the Sun card here, but it's in reverse, which tells me like a little bit of depression. So I think for a lot of us, we're going to have to like kind of like shift out of focusing so much on what happened in the past. And a lot of people hold on to their like childhood trauma to the point where they're not like moving forward, and they like use it as an excuse a lot of the time to continue to be just like hateful or rude or whatever. And because whenever I think of Knight of Cups, I think of like being emotionally manipulative. I think about like people who just like, they like prey on other people in that way. And so the 6 of Cups reversed is like definitely like it comes from that like pain from childhood, and it comes from like just being bored and having nothing better to do, you know? And so people definitely like lean a little bit more into like being rude because of that, you know? So in general, I guess like what we can get overall from this reading is a lot of us have in our present moment some sort of like positive idea of the future, you know? Like in our present moment, we have the things that we need. And whenever we're looking at the conscious and the subconscious, we're still seeing a lot of positivity, like positive things moving forward, like small victories, having blessings, like connecting with people around us, you know? We might need to definitely like take a little less like value from people's mean words. People are using these words to cause harm, and we definitely don't have to play into it. And I think a lot of us like maybe feel like a lack of purpose because we're just so overwhelmed by the future and just so overwhelmed by all the different options that lay ahead of us, you know? And whenever we think about like that external influence of like not knowing what we want to do next, like we can't really like charge forward because like what are we charging forward to? Like what are we supposed to do? Some of us are really like don't know what job we want to do. We don't know if we want to go back to school. We don't know, you know, like all these different things. Like there's these different paths, and it's really scary to really like nitpick one of them or focus on one of them, you know? Yeah. And so that's what we have here and then our outcome, of course, is to protect yourself emotionally from other people. This ended up being a pretty short reading, but I feel like it was pretty straightforward. Nothing really crazy came out to me. I feel like overall it's a pretty positive reading. The only thing to keep in mind is like our emotions, like keeping our emotions in check and not letting people like trigger us and stuff like that is really what I'm getting from this. So yeah, thanks for popping in on my live.